After 5 years in war zones, I came home, and no one even looked up. The disappointment they ignored is now the one deciding their future. And tomorrow? They'll learn what happens when you underestimate the wrong daughter. I'm Rachel Monroe. I'm 29 years old, and I'm a full-bird colonel in the U.S. Army Cyber Command. My father doesn't know. My brother definitely doesn't know. But when I walk into that conference room tomorrow morning, they'll learn the hard way what it means to underestimate the wrong daughter. Every family has its favorite. Mine just made it obvious. Growing up in Lexington, Kentucky, my brother Brian was always the golden boy. Honor roll, football captain, business school at Duke. My parents framed every certificate he ever got, even his 5th grade perfect attendance award. Me? I had medals. Real ones. Earned in combat zones, cyber operations. Long nights defending critical infrastructure from total collapse. But you won't find a single one of them on the wall. I once saved a U.S. military satellite system from being hijacked. My dad didn't even call. Every holiday I came home, the same script played out. Brian's team just closed a huge deal. Brian's wife got promoted. Oh, you're still moving around a lot, right? They called it concern. It felt more like dismissal. And now? Now my father's company, the one he built his whole identity around, is days away from locking down a $1.5 billion defense contract. And guess who the Army sent to oversee it? Me. Tomorrow, when I step into Clearfront Systems headquarters in full uniform, Silver Eagle on my collar, they'll realize the daughter they always overlooked now controls everything they've worked for. But tonight? Tonight I sit at the same dinner table. Same dishes. Same forced smiles. Same silence. And none of them suspect a thing. Before we get to that boardroom scene, tell me, have you ever been underestimated by your own family? Drop a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you've ever had a moment where you proved them wrong, silently, powerfully, then stay with me. Because this story is for you. The house looked exactly the same. Same faded red brick. Same wooden porch with the chipped railing Dad always said he'd fix. It was like time hadn't moved here. I parked behind Brian's brand new SUV, still bearing the dealership tag. He'd probably gotten it last week. Another reward, another celebration. I turned off the engine and just sat for a moment. Hands resting on the wheel, watching the curtains flutter in the living room window. No one came out to greet me. They knew I was arriving today. But of course, I wasn't Brian. I wasn't worth rushing out for. I stepped out, grabbed my overnight bag from the back seat, and walked toward the door that used to feel like home. Now, it just felt familiar. Not warm, not welcoming, just familiar. I rang the bell once, then twice, then finally opened the door myself. The scent hit me first. Lemon cleaner and old wood. It was like the house had been preserved in a vacuum, untouched by the years I'd been gone. Rachel. My mother's voice floated from the kitchen. Not excited, not surprised, just acknowledging. I'm here, I called back, closing the door softly behind me. Brian and Melissa will be here soon. Dinner's at 6, she said flatly, then returned to whatever she was stirring. No hug. No, you look good. No, we missed you. Just a time slot, like I was a calendar event she'd rather skip. I walked slowly through the hallway, running my hand along the walls. The same photos lined the path. Brian's graduation. Brian shaking hands with a senator. Brian holding his firstborn. I looked for a photo of me. Anyone. My ROTC commissioning? My first deployment? Nothing. There had once been a picture of me in uniform, smiling, proud. Back when I still hoped they'd be proud, too. It wasn't there anymore. My old bedroom door was still labeled Rachel in faded purple stickers. I opened it to find it exactly as I'd left it. Cheer trophies. Debate ribbons. The acceptance letter to Stanford taped to the mirror. A shrine to the girl they used to believe in before she threw it all away by joining the Army. I dropped my bag on the bed and sat down slowly. The mattress still creaked the same way. Everything creaked the same way. I remembered the night I told them I'd received an ROTC scholarship. Dad had stared at me like I'd confessed to a crime. The military? Rachel, that's not for people like us. That's for kids who don't have options. I had options. I just wanted something else. I wanted meaning, challenge, a path that was mine. But that night, I saw the door close. Not the front door. The invisible one. The door that separates acceptance from disappointment. They'd already picked their successor. Brian. The heir to Clear Front Systems. The one who would wear a tie, not a uniform. I stood up and walked to the closet. Behind a few old jackets, I carefully hung my garment bag. Inside it was my dress uniform. Perfectly pressed. Ribbons aligned. Rank gleaming. Colonel. Not disappointment. Not drifter. Not still moving around. Colonel Rachel Monroe. Tomorrow. I'd wear it to the Clear Front Leadership Summit. Tomorrow, my father's CEO, Kathleen Royce, would be announcing new protocols for the military cybersecurity project. And what no one in that house knew, what no one at that table would guess, is that I was the Pentagon liaison for that contract. A $1.5 billion initiative to modernize national defense networks. And I held the final approval. The irony? The man who told me the military was a dead end had unknowingly built his legacy on a contract that depended entirely on me. I came downstairs just as the front door opened. Voices followed, bright, cheerful, too loud for a hallway this narrow. Brian's voice, confident, booming, like he was walking into a press conference, not his parents' home. Melissa brought that Riesling you like, Mom. Of course she did. My mother beamed from the kitchen. And we brought some photos of the new house. Can't wait to show you. Melissa's laugh rang out like silverware clinking in a glass. Soft, polished, corporate. She had a voice built for conference calls and holiday cards. Then Brian spotted me. Hey, there's the world traveler. He said it like a joke, not a compliment. Welcome back, sis. He gave me one of those side hugs. The kind where your shoulders touch, but your heart doesn't. Rachel, Melissa nodded. Perfect as always. I've heard great things. From your Christmas emails. Funny, I hadn't sent one in years. Maybe Brian made up a version that fit their expectations. That made me pause. I hadn't sent a family email in years. Dinner was already laid out in the dining room. My mother didn't ask for help. She never did when Brian was in town. The table was dressed like it was 1998 Lace Runner. Crystal glasses no one used outside holidays, and the old brass candle holders she refused to replace. I took my seat near the end. Brian, naturally, took Dad's right-hand side. The place of honor. My father came in last, still in his dress shirt and company vest. Always dressed for business, even at home. He glanced at me briefly. No, welcome home. Just, let's eat before it gets cold. So we did. Between bites of overcooked roast and dry potatoes, the conversation turned right on schedule. Brian's presentation went really well this week, my mother announced. He chuckled modestly, setting down his fork. Well, it helps when the CEO personally asks you to lead the next phase. The cybersecurity project? Dad asked, perking up. The one the Army's involved in. Yeah, Brian nodded. She said my perspective might help streamline the integration. I almost choked on a carrot. Melissa beamed. He's managing 12 people now. She added. 2 of them are older engineers who didn't want to report to someone younger. But he won them over. That's leadership, Dad said with pride. That's exactly what this company needs to stay competitive. Then the silence came. That heavy, deliberate silence that settles just before a question you don't want to answer. So, Rachel, my mother said, carefully spearing a green bean. How's work? Still at the same rank? Brian asked, smiling like he didn't know. My fork paused midair. Things are going well, I said simply. Still a captain or whatever. Dad asked. I took a sip of water instead of answering. Well, Mom chimed in, shifting gears. Tiffany, remember her? She just bought a house outside Denver. 3 bedrooms. Big yard. That's great, I replied. She's settling down. Building a future. You know, Roots. I nodded. Let it pass. Not worth the energy. So, this summit tomorrow, Dad said. Turning to Brian. You ready for it? I was born ready. Brian grinned. Ms. Royce wants innovation, and that's exactly what I'm bringing. Think you'll get FaceTime with the Pentagon rep? Mom asked. Brian shrugged. Probably some major who's never set foot in a corporate setting. I'll keep the language simple. I smiled to myself. They still didn't know. The liaison might be more experienced than you think, I offered gently. Dad waved a hand. Military titles are just bureaucracy. Out here, it's about execution, not protocol. You know how it is. Ratch, Brian added. Soldiers follow orders. We build vision. I felt my jaw tighten, but I kept smiling. Melissa passed the butter like we weren't talking about my entire existence. And for the next 20 minutes, they went on about new appliances, Brian's next promotion, their vacation in Hawaii. Not once did anyone ask where I'd just returned from. Not once did they mention my name again. I sat there, invisible in plain sight, with the weight of a uniform upstairs that could rewrite the entire script of this dinner. And tomorrow morning. It would. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. Old habit. The house was quiet. No voices. No footsteps. Just the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs and the occasional creak of a settling floorboard. I opened the garment bag and unzipped it slowly, like I was revealing something sacred. I didn't wear this to impress them. I wore it to remind myself that I earned every thread. My dress uniform lay inside, every ribbon aligned, every button polished. I checked the silver eagle on my collar one last time. Centered. Gleaming. Earned. I thought of the night I first wore this uniform. I stood in front of the mirror, nervous, proud, waiting for him to say something. He just adjusted his tie and said, "Don't be late." That silence shaped me more than any speech ever could. I dressed with the precision of a habit forged by years. Hair pinned, jacket smooth, boots shined. By the time I stepped outside, the sun was just beginning to stretch across Lexington. Light hit the driveway. Brian's SUV was already gone. Good. I wanted them to be inside the building before I arrived. 15 minutes later, I pulled into the Clearfront Systems campus. The headquarters looked like every other defense contractor's pride project. Glass walls, steel curves, security gates, and manicured hedges. I pulled into the reserved space marked Military Liaison, do not block. I straightened my uniform once more, grabbed my briefcase, and stepped out. I remembered what General Grant once told me the night before my first major op. Leadership isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about knowing when to speak and making it count. The security officer at the front entrance looked up, eyes locking on the eagle on my collar. "Good morning, Colonel. May I see your credentials?" I handed over my ID and authorization letter. He scanned it, then stood a little straighter. "Welcome to Clearfront, ma'am. You're expected upstairs. Would you like an escort?" "No need," I said. "I know the way." Inside, the building buzzed with preparation. Project leaders wheeled in carts of equipment. Analysts triple-checked presentation files. The coffee line in the executive lounge was already 6 people deep. No one looked at me twice, yet. The elevator opened onto the top floor. I stepped out, and there he was, Brian, standing near the reception desk, scrolling on a tablet, likely rehearsing talking points he barely understood. He looked up casually, then froze. "Rachel." His eyes swept my uniform like it was a costume. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for the project review," I said calmly. His eyes flicked to the silver eagle. Confusion. Recognition. Then something else. Fear? He opened his mouth, But before he could speak, another voice cut through the hallway. Colonel Monroe? I turned. Kathleen Royce, CEO of Clearfront Systems, approached with her executive team flanking her like satellites. She smiled, extended her hand. What a pleasure to have you here in person. I thought we were doing this over video conference. I was in town visiting family, I replied. Seemed like a good opportunity for a surprise inspection. A very welcome one, she said with a nod. She turned to the others. For anyone who doesn't know, this is Colonel Rachel Monroe, our Pentagon liaison for the Aegis program. She'll be overseeing today's review and has final sign-off on system approval. I didn't look at Brian. I didn't need to. The air in the hallway changed. The receptionist sat a little straighter. An analyst walking by slowed her pace. My father rounded the corner mid-conversation with two board members. He saw me. Stopped. The color drained from his face like someone pulled a plug. Rachel, he said slowly, voice tight. What is going on? I'm here for the review, I said again, evenly. We weren't told you'd be here in uniform. That's odd, I said. My name was on the attendee list. One of the board members stepped forward. It's an honor to meet you, Colonel, he said, offering his hand. I've read your report on quantum encryption vulnerabilities. Brilliant work. Thank you, I replied. I could feel my father staring. Not at my face. At the insignia. Like he still didn't believe it was real. I'll see you inside, I said, then walked past him. The door to the main conference room opened smoothly. Inside, they were setting up nameplates, screens. Security badges. I took my seat at the head of the table. Not the side. The head. And I waited. Waited for the others to walk in, take their seats, and slowly realize who would be leading this meeting. The conference room filled quickly. Team leads, department heads, executives in tailored suits and polished shoes. Most of them paused when they saw me seated at the head of the table. Some nodded respectfully. Some looked surprised. Others curious. But no one questioned it. They read the nameplate. They saw the uniform. They understood. Brian walked in a minute later. He froze again. Looked for another seat. Chose one far from me. He didn't speak. My father entered behind him, holding a folder, expression neutral but tight. He took a seat near the center. Not his usual end chair position. Maybe he didn't feel like the man in charge today. Then the door opened once more. Kathleen Royce stepped in. Sharp, composed, a leader who knew the weight of every word she said. Good morning, everyone, she began. Today's review is not just a progress update, it's a milestone. The Aegis Defense Integration Project is one of the most ambitious cybersecurity partnerships we've ever taken on. And we are honored to be working directly with the U.S. Army. She turned to me. We're even more honored, she continued, to have Colonel Rachel Monroe with us in person. She has full oversight authority on behalf of the Pentagon. The room shifted. People straightened. Laptops were closed. Notebooks opened. My father stared down at his pen. Brian swallowed hard. I stood up. Thank you, Ms. Royce, I said calmly. I look forward to hearing everyone's updates. Let's begin with subsystem integration. The first presenter, a systems analyst, ran through metrics, schematics, and early success indicators. I listened, took notes, asked questions. Then the encryption team spoke. Then the compliance officer. Each time, I followed up with pointed questions, deep, technical, and precise. The room began to understand. I wasn't here for appearances. I was here to assess, to audit, to approve or not. Finally, it was Brian's turn. He stood slowly, cleared his throat. As lead on the user interface integration team, he began, my proposal focuses on accessibility and streamlined operator response time. Lead probably meant he got assigned the client-facing part. The real technical backbone was likely handled by engineers in the shadows, like I once was. He clicked through slides. He used buzzwords. He made eye contact with everyone but me. I waited. Let him finish. Then I raised my hand slightly. Brian, I said, professionally. Can you walk me through your adaptive redundancy model for operator failure recovery? His eyes flicked to his laptop. His jaw tightened. We haven't finalized that portion yet. I nodded. It's a critical component, especially for systems under attack scenarios. He nodded, didn't respond. Also, I continued, your UI logic flow uses a flat command hierarchy. Was that based on field consultation? Silence. I waited. No, he said finally. We assumed simplified structure would reduce error rates. It might, I said. But it also slows escalation during a live breach. Your logic would have cost us a 19-second delay in a simulation I ran last year. That's the difference between containment and collapse. The room was quiet. No one moved. No one defended him. Even Dad didn't speak. Brian sat down slowly, eyes fixed on the table. I looked across the room, taking in the weight of the moment. Not triumph. Not revenge. Just clarity. This was never about winning. It was about being seen clearly for once. When the final presentations ended, Kathleen stood again. Thank you all, she said. Colonel Monroe will remain on site through tomorrow to complete the security audit. Please give her your full cooperation. Then she turned to me. Colonel, your reputation precedes you, she said warmly. But seeing you in action today was even more impressive. General Marcus Grant speaks very highly of you. Thank you, I said softly. General Grant taught me to lead without apology. From the corner of my eye, I saw my father looking up, really looking, for the first time all day. And he didn't say a word. The room emptied slowly. One by one, the executives filed out. Most gave me a nod. Some offered quiet compliments. A few simply avoided eye contact with my father on the way out. I stood, gathering my notes. When I heard his voice behind me, Rachel, wait. I turned. He stood near the back wall. No folder now. No facade. Just my father, looking older than I remembered. Brian hovered nearby. Arms folded, shifting uncomfortably. Like he wasn't sure if he wanted to be part of the conversation or disappear from it entirely. You're really the liaison, my father said quietly. I nodded. Since last quarter. Assigned by Cyber Command. We've been monitoring your implementation since Phase 2. He let out a breath. Sat down in one of the empty chairs. You should have told me. He muttered. I did, I said. Over the years, in different ways. You just didn't listen. Brian stepped forward. You're the reason they didn't approve my system? No, I replied calmly. I'm the reason your system got reviewed properly. You don't want a clearance issue on a national security contract. He looked like he wanted to argue, but the words didn't come. My father leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I underestimated you, he said slowly. We both did. I waited. Not for an apology. Not for validation. Just to see if he meant it. You were always so independent, he continued. Even when you were a kid. I thought structure, a corporate path, would suit you better. It didn't, I said. And that's okay. What's not okay was pretending I didn't exist, because I chose something different. He nodded. There was a long silence, the kind that fills a room after something important has been said. Brian finally broke it. Why didn't you ever tell us you were a colonel? I looked at him. Would it have made a difference? He didn't answer. Because we both knew it wouldn't have. Not then. Maybe not even now. My father stood. He walked around the table and stopped in front of me. You did well today, he said, voice lower now. I don't say that lightly. I met his eyes. Thank you, I said. And I meant it. But it wasn't enough to fix years. It wasn't supposed to be. He offered his hand. I shook it, firm, professional, like two people who'd worked on a tough project and gotten through it. Brian gave a half smile, awkward, tired. Then he looked down and said, Good job. Colonel, that was new. And maybe that was enough. Not everything needed to be a scene. Not every wound needed a speech. Sometimes you just needed to know. They finally saw you. Even if it took a silver eagle and a full boardroom to make it happen. That night, I didn't stay for dinner. I left the office quietly, walked to my car, and let the cool air hit my face before I turned the ignition. There was no celebration, no speech, no dramatic goodbye. Just me, in uniform, finally driving away not to escape, but to move forward. I pulled into the quiet parking lot of a small hotel across town. No one knew I was staying there. No expectations. No reminders. I hung up my uniform, removed each ribbon carefully, folded the jacket with precision. Then I sat by the window, still in the white undershirt of the day's armor, and watched the lights blink across Lexington's skyline. It used to feel so far away. Now it felt small, manageable, almost peaceful. My phone buzzed. A message from General Grant. Heard it went well. Proud of you, Colonel. Let me know if they gave you trouble. I'll send a drone. I smiled. Just a little. Then set the phone down and looked at the stars. For a long time, I thought success had to be loud. Trophies, applause, recognition from the people who once doubted you. But tonight, success was quiet. It was knowing I had done the hard thing, the right thing. Not because they'd notice, but because I would. They saw me now. Sure, but the real victory? I no longer needed them to. We spend years chasing approval. From family, from bosses, from people who may never truly understand us. But at some point, you realize you don't need a stage or an audience or even applause. Sometimes all you need is the silence after a long war to hear your own voice again. I'm Rachel Monroe, Colonel, leader, daughter, and I didn't come back for their applause. I came back to remind myself that I was never invisible. Not really. If you've ever felt overlooked, ignored, dismissed, I hope this story reminded you that your worth isn't up for debate. It's built, earned, and undeniable, wherever you're listening from. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next story. And if no one's told you this today, I'm proud of the battles you've fought, too. Until then, stand tall, even when no one claps. Especially then.